This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV.com with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer. There's a lot in here that I don't find interesting that I don't share with, but there was a lot that I did find interesting this week. The big story was Vince McMahon. Will he start his own federation? Or will he fade into the oblivion quietly? I personally think he's going to start his own federation. Dave Meltzer believes that he's done, given that he's 78 years old. And with the no compete clause, he wouldn't be able to start anything new until late January 2025. Meltzer feels that a combination of age, reputation, and he doesn't think there's enough talent. I think there's tons of talent out there that definitely um, could be used 100% for sure. Not to mention people's contracts end all the time. And I get Dave's point about the reputation, but though I actually think one of the main reasons he is going to return is because of his reputation to make people forget about the Janelle Grant stuff, whether it settles or goes to court. If he were to start a new federation, it would just put all that in the back burner. If he stops, it's like Janelle Grant has won, and there's enough people, more than enough people that don't really care about the Janelle Grant stuff. That's a terrible situation, but he can settle that up if he actually wanted to, or he could take it to court and let the judge decide. Um, Meltzer also brings up he does have an endless amount of money if he wants to commit to the project. He could obviously get it on a streaming platform. And this is one thing I don't agree about, that he could run a company on NWA or TNA's level. Whatever Vince did would be way, way bigger than NWA or TNA. NWA, people have pretty much stopped talking about since they stopped putting their show on YouTube and have moved to some app that not as many people get as YouTube. So they pretty much faded away by going to this app. TNA is getting like 500 fans for pay-per-views, 200 for TV tapings. Vince could do a lot better than that. This is the guy that came up with WrestleMania, one of the greatest promoters of all time. And you guys can write what you think in the comments. But this is a multi-billionaire that is the greatest wrestling promoter of all time, like him or hate him. I think he would do a lot better than NWA or the level that TNA is at now. Maybe more like a TNA Spike TV level, but I think he would do even bigger than that. Meltzer said one player familiar with McMahon behind the scenes that apparently said that it was McMahon's idea to extend Rhodes' fight for the title another year, believes that McMahon will start up when he legally could because wrestling is too big a part of his life. And this person that Dave did not name feels that Vince has enough contacts and enough contracts come due every year, and Vince has the money, that even though Vince has had a negative stigma about him, that he would be formidable competition. Apparently, a lot of people who are in WWE feel there's no chance of him starting something new, but they say, even though they don't think it'll happen, if he did, it would be formidable, and I agree with that. I mean, this guy made WWE what it is today, 100%. I would like to see a third company start because remember when AEW was supposed to be a true alternative to WWE, it ended up being more of a spot fest than WWE. I think it's great that AEW exists and they do some good stuff, but it didn't end up being what they said it was going to be when it first came out. and, like, another place to make money for wrestlers would be great. That would be the most legitimate places for wrestlers to make money since the territory days. I think it would be great if he starts something up personally. In other WWE news, even though that's not WWE, it's only WWE because Vince is the most associated person with WWE, and his family is still involved with the company. This Japanese guy, Rosie Ogawa, who recently left Stardom, has a new promotion called Dream Star Fighting Marigold. What a name! They're going to be associated with WWE. There's a working agreement in place, and this Rosie Ogawa and Julia, who is a top Japanese female star, appeared at the NXT pay-per-view WrestleMania weekend, and apparently Julia is going to debut for WWE at the July 7th NXT event in Toronto, as you don't need a work visa to wrestle in Canada. You do in the US, and her US work visa might not be through by that time. WWE Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, 27, had to vacate the title at the Montreal Raw this week due to a right shoulder injury that's supposedly a sprained ACL joint. So she could be out for a while. It happened when she was thrown into a wall the week before by Liv Morgan. There's no knowledge on how long she'll be out, but she did have to vacate the title. She had been champion 380 days. On the next episode of Raw, they're going to have a new champion. They haven't actually said how they're going to go about finding that new champion yet. WWE released their longest employee since 1986, Sue Atkinson, or Aitchison, who was the director of community relations, worked with Make-A-Wish. She was the recipient of the Roy Warrior Award in 2019. Apparently, the Warrior Award has been discontinued quietly since the Ultimate Warrior's widow, Dana Warrior, was let go by the company. Meltzer brings up that UFC and Endeavor don't have loyalty to previous employees, like WWE had, so cuts like that are not surprising to him. Apparently, Dwayne Johnson has hinted that he would like to face Cody Rhodes next year at WrestleMania for the title. Drew Gulak, who Ronda Rousey accused of pulling her drawstring, appears to be gone from the company. Apparently, there was an investigation, and the results apparently they found Ronda Rousey more credible, but there were some witnesses that came out that said they didn't really accept Ronda's story. However, Ronda's way more famous than Gulak, who's very dispensable, and Rousey gave that whole incident so much publicity lately that why not take Gulak off TV? It's not like he's over. McIntyre's deal expires with WWE in late May. He's expected to resign. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins deals expire soon as well. There's no WWE house shows this weekend. Logan Paul and his fiancee Nina, who's a beautiful model from Denmark, announced she's pregnant. John Cena would like to return to WWE early next year. He's going to be doing acting most of this year. The SmackDown in Detroit last Friday, April 12th, had 14,659 fans sell out for the setup. The Raw this Monday, April 15th, was the end of the WWE's TV taping sellout streak. Still a good crowd, 11,837 total, but not a sellout. AEW Collision Battle of the Belts and Ring of Honor tapings in Kentucky last Saturday, 2,600 total. Could you imagine how long that show was? Oh, too many. Anyways, it's not my. I like Tony Khan. I love that AEW is around. It's good that ROH gives people jobs. but, I do think that having ROH matches on these shows, making them long and watering down the shows is a great detriment to AEW, and that's like having Raw or SmackDown and then making people stay and sit for hours to watch NXT. And NXT, I mean, I would not wanna watch NXT or ROH personally. Neither of them are just my cup of tea, and I'm not that big of a wrestling fan anymore. But remember the main event used to be last or there was some reason to stay till the end? It's like they're doing the better matches first and then doing the opening matches. It's like, watch the good stuff, then stay for the stuff from the people that you can only see if you're a part of the subscription service. So most of you don't know who these guys are other than the ones that are in AEW. But again, it's his money, his company. I would just like to see them focus on AEW and making AEW back to the buzz it had again, and not having people leave these long tapings burnt out. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think you could do Ring of Honor pay-per-views or do Ring of Honor in an arena like Davis Arena in where OVW tapes, a very small place where you can do really cheap tapings. But to me, honestly, it's just too long. Unless you're a super, super fan that can sit through 5 hours of wrestling. But your average person, and there, let's face it, there's comp tickets to all these events too. The people getting comped aren't going to want to come back and buy after having to sit through that if they last through the whole thing. But I'll shut up about that because, as I said, I do like that company overall. I just find that they should really focus on AEW and getting AEW back to the buzz it was when it first started. John Moxley is the first person in history to win the WWE, AEW, and IWGP World Championships when he won over Tetsuya Naito April 12th at the Windy City Riot in Chicago, which was New Japan's biggest drawing event in North America since the pandemic. 6,028 fans, which is very good. This was Jack Perry's last New Japan match. He's expected to be back on a. He's always been under AEW contract, but he's expected to start back on AEW TV very soon. Tony Khan said in a media call he's willing to replace himself as Booker, but he also said it's one of the highlights of his life being the Booker as well as being involved with the shows. And you can tell that Tony Khan loves being part of the shows, and good for him. Good for him. He got the biggest pop at the Ottawa show that I attended, and I could see being 20 feet away from him. The videos posted on this channel. I made a cell phone video of it. I mean, he's having the time of his life, and I'm happy to see that he's having so much fun, and at the same time giving people like Jake the Snake contracts where who knows what the hell Jake the Snake would be having to do if AEW wasn't taking care of him. I like that they're taking care of legends like that and giving so many people paydays. I just want them to get the buzz back. I truly do. Will Ospreay came out and says that he had autism and is dyslexic, and he needs help reading stuff like contracts. But these things have contributed to his success. And one thing I don't like is when Jim Cornette makes fun of people who are autistic or uses it as an insult. By the way, I've worked with in group homes with developmentally delayed adults for years, from like 2010, actually from like 2005-ish, very or 6-ish to up to 2017-ish. I worked on and off in group homes with developmentally delayed adults, and I don't find like calling someone autistic as an insult. Um, proper because there's very high functioning people, and why should you insult handicapped people? And yes, he has called me that numerous times. And just for the record, I am not autistic. I may have had a ton of concussions, and I may have gone through trauma in my life that has affected my mental health from time to time, and suffered from depression from time to time. But I'm not autistic. But I don't take it as an insult if someone were to call me that. Like Jim Cornette, I'm more insulted that he uses that as an insult for people that genuinely are that, because they shouldn't be demeaned like that as if they're lesser people. That's just my thought on it. Adam Copeland said he may be retiring in a year to 18 months. It's always all about the money in wrestling as far as retirements. Is I think Ric Flair's still under AEW contract, but they haven't been doing much of anything with him. And then there was a big thing with the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission issuing a warning to AEW, Nyla Rose, for, according to them, violating their athletic commission statute, because Nyla Rose had said in her wrestling license application that she was a woman, and they don't feel she was a woman. They issued AEW a warning. Next time they could face up to $1,000 fine or 1% of the gross, and Nyla could face up to 30 days in jail. So Tony Khan has responded that he doesn't think the company did anything wrong, and that transgenders should not be discriminated against, and he stands by Nyla Rose. In MMA news, here's something funny, okay? The gate for UFC 300, they had 20,067 paid fans. The T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, $16,508,823 gate. That doesn't include sponsorships or or whatever they get from ESPN for doing the pay-per-view. They put the bonuses of the night from 50,000, which has been since they started doing the bonuses decades ago, to 300,000. Okay, so why aren't the bonuses 300,000 all the time? Like you're getting concussions and CTE and permanent brain damage for fighting in UFC, if not in the actual matches from the training, as Ronda Rousey has talked about. And even the live gate here is almost 17 million, and they're making a big deal that the performance of the night bonuses were 300,000 instead of 50,000 for these people's literally getting brain damage for the company. But there's nowhere else they can make that type of money, and their UFC is a business, not taking anything away from them. But I do think that they should permanently boost, with how much money UFC makes, they should boost the performance of the nights from the average 50 that it's been for decades, 50,000, something more fitting to how much they make. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is official now, for Fight Week, June 29th in Las Vegas. And by the way, I was supposed to do a UFO interview with Darcy Weir, a director and an expert in underwater UFOs. It was supposed to be tonight. It's going to be moved till Tuesday. Something came up for him. Is Ruby Riott really pregnant? Yes, she is. I believe so. But don't quote me on that, but I believe I read something about that. I just didn't know who she was, so it was one of the things that I found not interesting. Women's bodies aren't made for wrestling, someone says. Well, I like women's wrestling, personally. I'd rather watch women's wrestling than men's wrestling, but I'd rather watch old school wrestling, honestly. I do watch some stuff from today's wrestling. But for instance, I watched the Freebirds debut in WWE today after Tom Pritchard and John Paz were talking about it, and I really enjoyed that. Although I have to say, I do like the Bad Street USA song that Michael Hayes sings better than the Freebird song that they came out to back then. It was too slow of a song for them. Someone says it would be surprising if Becky and Seth do not re-sign with WWE. It's all going to be about the money. They would be bigger stars in AEW. Seth Rollins, um, because of the top stars in WWE like Cody and Roman Reigns and now The Rock. It's like I can't see The Rock or I can't see Seth being in contention for the real world title picture anytime soon. Whereas in AEW, they would probably make him a top champion and stuff. But would he really boost ratings that much for AEW? I don't know. I think Becky would actually boost ratings more. But yeah, it might be unlikely that they'll jump, but there is a chance they could jump. Kingdom of Son of God says good riddance to Vince. The thing is, though, I think that he finds people like you, people that hate him like that, and think that he's going to go away and think that he'll be down. I know he's a fighter. I know he's an entrepreneur. I don't think he's going to lie down. I think people that really despise him are actually going to motivate him to come back. Someone says Becky Lynch should go back to doing Jeopardy. Current WWE is pure garbage. There's some. It's better. Some of the stuff in there is better than it has been, but there's a lot of stuff I'd find like completely uninterested. Like honestly, Sami Zayn beating Gunther. Come on. I mean, give me a break. And yeah, I had zero. I wanted to watch the Rock's match from night one of WrestleMania, but not enough to buy the pay-per-view or buy the network again. And that was literally, I would have watched Logan Paul's match. I am interested in Logan Paul's career. Um, I don't even remember who he wrestled. That's how much I cared about it. But I am interested in Logan Paul's career just as a YouTuber myself. But pretty much other than Logan Paul's match and The Rock's match, I had no interest in watching WrestleMania because I knew Cody Rhodes was going to beat Roman Reigns, and it's just too predictable. Someone says the longest WWE show you ever watched was 4 hours. The old TV tapings with the jobbers used to be long, but they would put a main event match on last that would keep people staying. And the thing is, at least with the jobber match against the stars, there was a star. In these Ring of Honor matches, it's like people don't know who either of the guys are in most cases unless it's someone like an Eddie Kingston that wrestles in both. But other than that, it's like no name against no name. It's like, why? Someone says he'll do the booking for AEW and give Nyla Rose all the belts. The thing about Nyla Rose is I don't think she's over. The only time I ever hear about her is because she's a transgender. Like she's known because she's a transgender. You never hear, oh, she's a great wrestler. She's having all these awesome matches. She should be women's champion, blah, blah, blah. I think she may have been women's champion at some point. I really don't know. I haven't followed AEW that closely, but I follow it enough to know that she's not considered hot, as in she doesn't have any buzz about her. This is the most buzz about her that she's had. And I think she'll be with AEW a long time. Someone says someone bled so much in New Japan. Must have thought he was wrestling for a death match. Moxley bled so much, he must have thought he's wrestling for death matches. Well, I'm a half vampire. I have no problem with John Moxley bleeding. I actually like John Moxley. I would love to wrestle John Moxley. I would say we would have very very good matches. He's someone I'd like to wrestle. I would actually even like to wrestle CM Punk, to be honest with you. Out of those two, the Moxley one is more likely to happen, but I will be returning to the ring. I've had a bad injury, but I've had really good workouts. the past few weeks. And thanks to Trisha Morrison, Tommy Morrison's widow, for with her knowledge from being Tommy Morrison's wife has given me a few things that have helped me in my recovery that I'll talk about more as my recovery continues. But I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'll be stepping back in the ring June 29th in Napanee, Ontario. That will be a The Hannibal TV taping, by the way. Someone says it costs $80 a pay-per-view. No thanks. I'll watch PFL. Yeah, I don't even know. I'll watch the WWE pay-per-views when they go on Netflix. I'll get a Netflix pass because I know I'll watch the Netflix content, and then I could review certain events that I want to watch. Boxing does pay better than MMA. Very true. Yeah, I'm getting back. I'm feeling a lot better. I've had a hellish few years, but I'm feeling better. David, no, there's no Japanese era like Brody or Hansen, but I would say that the Blood Hunter would have been able to go toe to toe with Brody or Hansen. I guarantee that. Guarantee you he's one of the best brawlers out there, 100%. 100%. A lot better than a lot of these guys collecting paychecks for AEW that haven't paid any dues. But that's just the way that luck falls sometimes. But someone says the main event of Mania took the 5 minutes just to get in the ring. It was ridiculous. I'm not a big fan of the entrances. I know some people are, and there was a lot of people said like the main event was good because Undertaker interfered and The Rock interfered and John Cena interfered. It's a lot of interference, but I could understand why having all those stars in the match would make it good. Entrance was way too long. Again, I didn't want to watch it. I would have watched the if I had had Netflix, I would have watched the Rock match because I'm a fan of the Rock. He is the greatest wrestler by far of this era. Who the hell was it I was watching recently that said the Rock or Buff Bagwell? I'll agree with Buff Bagwell on this, who did an interview with Jack Kilby this week. The Rock looks like a man amongst boys, and he just outshines everybody because he's such a star and so full of electricity. Main event was overbooked. Well, they're doing everything in their power to get Cody Rhodes over. Everything. And we'll see how it plays out. Anyways, guys, appreciate the likes and the subscriptions. We're closing in on 400,000 subscribers. So thank you to all the subscribers. Have a wonderful weekend.